Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest Small Talks episode where Alan and I talked all about focus, as The Rock would say, focus. Today we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on the word FOMO. Thank you to Sandra for the suggestion. What does FOMO mean to you?
So first, do you want me to do the friendly reminder?
Yeah, do a friendly reminder.
Okay,
Remind them friendly.
Friendlily. Geographically?
Yes.
Yeah, so quick friendly reminder to go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com. This website's coming up because Kevin's been doing a lot of work on it.
Yes.
And you are going to click on join our mailing list, and you're going to get 3 hyperconscious morning minutes to kickstart your days off right Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The only way your life gets better is if you get better first. Let us help you do that.
You're getting good at that.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Well, I've said it several times.
Several hundred.
Yeah, right. So FOMO, he said word. The word FOMO, it's not a word, it's a topic.
It is a
Kevin.
topic. I apologize. It is a word, technically. It's 4 letters, FOMO, but evidently it's not. What is it when you make a word, you know what I mean? It stands for something.
An acronym.
Acronym.
Right.
Cool. So it's an acronym.
It's an acronym. So fear of missing out. So Kevin and I were just talking the preamble here, and Kevin doesn't have a lot of this.
No. So for those of you who know my story, you know that I traveled for like 4 years and I was never home. I used to get FOMO all the time.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. So if you remember, one of the reasons that I wanted to get out of my job and I wanted to move to Worcester is because you and Matt were working out together, and I was working out by myself, or I wasn't working out at all sometimes when I was on the road. Most of the time I was, but I had FOMO, like seeing what you were doing and seeing what Matt was doing and seeing what people were doing, and they were hanging out and they were doing things together, and it's like, here I am in a dirty hotel room in Jersey again.
Yeah.
Another week. Ooh, living the dream. So right now, though, so Alan and I, like you said, we were talking in the preamble, and I don't feel this almost ever anymore. But I know if you're listening and watching that you might experience this. So we wanted to talk about it and add as much value as we could. When it comes to FOMO, I think there's a couple different kinds. One, it's just because maybe you weren't invited, or maybe you just aren't with the people who are doing the quote-unquote cool stuff. I will talk about FOMO associated with chasing your dreams. Because Friday nights, there is almost nothing I will put over podcasting. If we have a podcast at 7 o'clock on a Friday night, I would rather be doing that than out.
Yeah.
If there's a UFC on Saturday, I'll literally sit down and watch 7 hours of UFC. I don't care about going out. It's just not, it's never been a thing for me. And when it comes to friendships, I really care far more about quality than I do over quantity. That's just the way I've been. You know me, I have to have a deep emotional bond with the people I spend time with. So I don't have much FOMO, but I do understand that, Friday and Saturday are social times.
So recently you and I were talking about doing this episode. This was, I think, earlier last week or before the weekend, but we were in person, and I said to Kevin about FOMO, And I think you said something like, I don't really have a lot of that anymore, but I think it's also, and he was joking, he said it's also because I have
crippling anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
Social
I
anxiety.
have crippling social anxiety. We laughed about that. So
then I cried.
Right. How much of the fact that you don't have FOMO anymore? I think there's two things. So first and foremost, I think the amount in which you are living congruent with your own highest values is going to be the less FOMO you have. Because if you're doing and focusing, focus was the last episode. If you're focusing on the things that matter most deeply to you, in persons, places, and things, and career, then you're most likely not going to feel like you're missing out on the other things. So I think there's that. But I also think that some of your lack of FOMO might be because you don't value social situations as much as other people do.
I would say that's it for sure. I don't, for the first time, I probably feel the most fulfilled I've ever felt in my entire life because of this platform, because I have coaching clients that I get to work with all the time. They're texting me.
Well, you're kind of a big deal now.
Yeah, some would say. I definitely don't think so, but I appreciate the love. I feel like I'm serving my purpose.
Yeah.
And it's like, for some people, going out to the bar is R&R. Or going out, whatever it is. I love going to nice dinners. I enjoy that type of thing. But seeing other people out partying literally does nothing for me. It does absolutely nothing for me. Seeing people on vacation does nothing for me because I know I'll have that eventually when the time is right. I'm not okay with going on vacation now if it takes me longer to get to my goal. So it's not FOMO. It's just I know I'll have that eventually.
Yeah.
So I think I don't value certain things like some people do. When I was traveling, I just wanted to stay home and watch UFC, or I wanted to watch a Bruins game on television.
Yeah.
I used to love hockey, and I never got to watch any games because I was always traveling. I think that forced me to appreciate the things that I appreciate differently. I don't know.
So if you're out there right now and you do struggle with FOMO, try to figure out, I think there's probably some truth to that. And in other words, this last Friday night, I was out at the track running, and it was freezing cold, and it was pretty fucking miserable, to be completely honest with you. And I had some FOMO for sure, because I thought to myself, like, I kind of, my social life hasn't had as much, I haven't worked on proactively on my social life as much as I have in the past. And I'm very extroverted. I love people, and I love being around people. I love connecting with people, and I spend a lot of time in solitude. Personal development is personal. But that said, so that's kind of what I'm saying. On Friday night, if I have FOMO, there's probably something there that I could look into. Like, okay, maybe I want to work on my social life a little more. Maybe I do want to have some fun things to do on a Friday night. Maybe go to the movies with a friend or whatever it is. So my point is that FOMO is most likely partially fear of like missing out on things that other people are doing that look maybe more spectacular than they really are. But I think the other part is most likely an inspiration type of thing, whereas your heart is probably being drawn. You know how I always say chase your envy?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you're envious of, I think is your heart trying to say you can do that too. For example, Kevin's humility and humor. I've felt envy for that before because I see how people react to it so positively, and I want to be a positive influence in other people's life. So instead of me saying, well, F you for being so fun and funny, I can say, okay, maybe those are parts of me that I want to develop, and now I can learn from Kevin or get around Kevin, and now I genuinely do think I am a little funnier for being around Kevin. I've made a few funnies.
You made a funny last episode. I almost pissed my pants. Almost derailed the whole episode.
Yeah, it almost went off the rails, by the way. But that's the thing. So dissect the FOMO. Part of being hyperconscious is bringing to the surface what's real. So if you are having some fear of missing out, try to figure out why that is. It's most likely partially fear, and the other part is most likely something that you desire.
I'm very intrigued by that breakdown because, I don't think, we've talked about this, I don't think I've ever gone to the bar, done the bar thing, and ever come home happier or in a better mood than before I went. So naturally to me, like if you're doing that and you're having a good time, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I just don't, it's never been my cup of tea. Now, I'll tell you right now, if we didn't go to Brendan Bouchard's event, I would have had FOMO for that.
Right.
I get FOMO over things that I know will bring me closer to my goal.
Yeah.
And my goal usually isn't, I don't know, maybe I'm just not as social as most people. I don't know. I feel like that would probably be an accepted definition. Like, I don't think I'm as social as most people. I don't go out of my way. Like, if I'm in the grocery store, I'll stop and talk to anybody. You know me. I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't go out to be social. When I'm out, I'm just social, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Do you think you're more introverted or extroverted?
I would say I'm introverted for sure.
Yeah. Okay,
sure.
I would too.
But
you're working on the
situations-
extroversion. So for the listeners right now, and I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're good.
I think I developed my extrovertedness a lot in my youth, and Kevin developed his introvertedness a lot in his youth. And I think we've balanced each other out now. You've been working on becoming better with people, and I think I've been working on getting, more introverted in personal development and solitude and that kind of stuff over the last few years. Now, if you're out there right now and you don't have FOMO for people that are out in social situations, maybe it's because that's not something you crave. So you mentioned being out at the bar. Does being out at the bar energize you and excite you?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
What does?
Podcasting,
Right.
lifting, watching UFC, sparring,
Yeah. Keep going.
rapping, listening to rap, exploring new artists that rap. What else excites me? I'm such a simple creature.
I think
Good food, good restaurants. That's the thing. Like, I have to disagree with you because I've never been bad with people. I've always been really, really good with people.
Yeah.
I just don't go out of my way to do it. That's just natural. It comes natural to me. Like, I've never had trouble making friends. If a friend you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you see me in the gym. I have a lot of quote unquote friends in the gym that I could.
Do you feel like being in social situations drains you or energizes you?
Probably drains.
Okay, so then you go get refueled in solitude.
Yes.
Okay, I'm the opposite.
Okay. See, I require solitude.
I've developed, and I think being whole is developing both. Now I can get energized in both if I'm doing the right things. But that's kind of for the introvert extrovert thing that I was trying to say. You got to figure out what energizes you. If social situations drain you, then you need to make sure you're balancing out enough solitude. Otherwise, you'll feel like an empty cup. And if you're like me, for example, when I had FOMO on Friday night, it's probably because I wasn't getting re-energized by adding value to people and being around people and feeling connected. So you got to know yourself and understand, whether you're righty or lefty. We all have both, but we're like stronger in one. And if you want to be a whole human, you're going to want to develop the one that you're weaker in for sure.
I think so. One thing I can say for you and I, like, you were training on Friday, running in the rain.
Oh, yeah, right.
We've said it before where it's like it's 2 a.m. going from Friday into Saturday morning, and you and I have been podcasting all night, or we're recording something, or we're trying something new, or we're doing something with content, or we're masterminding. And we always say, like, everybody else is at the bar.
Yeah.
For me, I wear that as a badge of honor, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I do too, because I just smile like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I challenge the FOMO because I know this is going to make me better. It's the things that I do when everybody else is doing what they're doing that makes me better.
Yeah.
If
I used
you're
to
my
like that.
opponent, you can't beat me. And I don't mean that in a cocky way, but like when you're doing the things that everybody else is doing, I'm doing the stuff that I do. And I wear that as a badge.
But I think so for someone who's not as crystal clear on their dreams and maybe doesn't have something as concrete that they know is going to be worth it,
Then it makes sense.
then they're going to have more FOMO.
sure.
That's another good point. If you're out there and you get FOMO a lot, it's most likely on some level because you don't have as much clarity on what you value most.
Also, break it down. Like you said, go hyper conscious with it. If you're having FOMO, if you're on Instagram Saturday night, you're watching people out having fun, doing reckless stuff at bars, maybe that's because there's a part of you that wishes you were confident enough to do that, or carefree enough to do that.
Yeah.
Or
maybe you want attention on some level,
Yeah.
or to feel significant.
And right, wrong, or indifferent. This
Right.
doesn't make you a bad person.
No,
This is
no.
actually going to help you in the long run when you figure out why you're feeling the way you're feeling.
We should go into the 6 needs.
Let's go.
I think we should do it.
Sure. I know like one of them.
Okay.
Uncertainty.
That's the first one.
I know.
So Tony Robbins, in his TED Talk, Why We Do What We Do, I've shouted it out so many times on this podcast. That TED Talk is what I believe to be the greatest TED Talk in history. It has absolutely changed my life. He talks about the 6 human needs. We all have all 6. Number 1 is certainty. slash security. Number 2 is uncertainty slash variety. Number 3 is significance slash uniqueness. I'm putting in the slashes, by the way. The 4th one is love slash connection. The 5th one is growth. And the 6th one is contribution. Now, most people find a way to meet the first 4. These are what he calls the needs of the human. And the needs of the spirit, which hopefully you're getting from this podcast, by the way, is growth and contribution. Hopefully we help you grow as a person, and then therefore you can contribute to the people in your life even more. And so, to me, you need to understand yourself and what needs are driving you. We all have all 6, but we have a very big 2. And the syntax in which these are in order with yourself is going to determine whether or not you are going to determine the way you take action. So, for example, to bring this back to FOMO, if you're fearing missing out on something, it might be because that something is meeting needs that are not being met within you. So, for example, if I'm very significance-driven, which I am, by the way, which means I want to be unique, I want to be different, I want to stand out, and I want to be like the master of my craft. I want to be excellent-driven. So if someone else is extremely good at what they do, I'll give you an example. I get FOMO with Tom Brady, for sure, because he's so fucking good at what he does, and he's seen as the best in the world. I have that in me. I want to be the best in the world at what I do. You know that if you know me. So I get FOMO when he's up on the podium a little, where it's like, I want to be seen as the best in the world at what I do, you know? And so whatever you're fearing is most likely a reflection of needs in yourself not being met.
Do you think that's FOMO, or do you just think that's not jealousy, but envy?
I think it's the same thing.
Okay.
Envy is a form of fear.
So
fear
then
of missing
I
out.
do have FOMO.
Okay.
Ooh.
What's an example?
So
Being vulnerable here.
no, it's not deep. You'll understand. Everybody will understand.
He's jealous of my biceps.
Yes, that's what it is. They're so small and they fit easily into places in shirts. Joe Rogan will, if somebody sends him a painting, he will literally shout them out their website and their Instagram handle so they can get more eyes. I want to do that. I'm looking forward to doing that when we have millions and millions of listeners, where I can say, hey, you know, this person has this going on. I can't wait for the listeners. I can't wait till somebody can reach out and say, I have my house burned down. And I can say, Alan, today we're going to do, in the middle of the rep, I want to plug that John's house burnt down. We have set up a GoFundMe account, and we're going to ask the listeners if they can donate. That is what drives me. So I have FOMO in that, but it's like, that's good FOMO for me.
I remember another time you had FOMO when Oprah Winfrey donated $2 million on stage. We both did. Kevin and I were at an Oprah Winfrey event with our strong friend and ally, Joanna DePena.
Shout out to Joanna.
Of Top Notch Scholars, absolutely killing it. And she donated $2 million at the blink of an eye to Lowell University. And Lowell University? Are they University?
University of Lowell.
Yeah, there you go. University of Lowell, much better. And you and I both had FOMO because we both were like, imagine what it would be like to change that many lives.
Yeah.
And so your FOMO is most likely needs that it's a call to action, I think. I think it's a call to action. I think a lot of fears are supposed to be the green light and not the red light. So if you are, like, for example, on a Friday night, if I'm alone still working out and I have FOMO, maybe that's a call to action to say, Alan, why not create a more incredible social life? And by the way, I've started doing that. So if you have FOMO, figure out what parts of that situation are a call to action for you to develop yourself and to maybe create a life that's even better.
I like how we're taking the word or the phrase, as you so eloquently put it.
Yeah. Phrase. Acronym.
The acronym. I like how we're breaking it down into, I think it's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's different for everybody. You'll hear people that are talking about like, I want to have kids one day. And they'll see people with kids and they'll get FOMO from that. Oh,
yes.
That's a great indication that
you want to have
something
kids.
that you value.
Right. Right. Oh, wow.
And I think that's why the bar thing and a lot of the things that a lot of people... Go ahead.
No, I keep going. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, you're good. A lot of the things that people value, I don't necessarily value.
Yeah.
And the things that I value, dude, I want to be able to buy somebody a new house. I want to be able to donate $1 million at the drop of a hat. That's the stuff that I fear missing out on that.
Yeah.
On that. And like having next like Eminem. boom, I
Yeah.
want to have him on the podcast.
Right.
Like that is the life that I desire. So everything that I'm afraid of missing out on is expanding my stairs towards my dreams. Like that's what I miss out.
I just had a moment. You trigger things when you talk. You trigger things in me. I remember having FOMO when I saw Greg Plitt for the first time, and it's not a bad FOMO. It was more of like an inspiration,
Yeah,
really. It
yeah.
was like I want that too. I remember when I first met Nate. Shout out to you, Nate, my fitness coach, dear friend of mine. When I first met him, I remember being like, "Fuck, I want to look like that. Like I want to have that strong physical presence." And then when I found out that he was so incredible as a person and also so intelligent, I hung out with him every day for 3 months before he hightailed it to California without me. No, I'm kidding. I think that FOMO really is a call to action, and I kind of came out naturally.
I think that. Let me see if I can tie this all together. Okay,
Yeah, let's do it.
so your FOMO. It depends, right? Because I could very easily say, well, Joe Rogan's able to do that because he's so successful. I need to be that successful. I have the fear of missing out on being uber successful. That's not the case. I have the fear of missing out on being able to
Right.
help as many people and impact as many people as possible.
Exactly.
Now, if you have FOMO of somebody going on a cruise, it could be many reasons. You see a picture of somebody beautiful in their bikini on a cruise, and you say, I have FOMO. I have FOMO because of that. Is it because they're on the cruise? Maybe you don't have the money to go on the cruise. Is it because you're afraid of boats and you don't want to go on the cruise? Is it because you're not confident in a bikini, then you don't want to go on the cruise? I think you have to figure out why you're actually having the fear associated with it.
Yeah, and then develop that part of you.
Yes, and then figure that out.
Yeah, and I think that there's genuine desire of the heart, which I believe is where your greatest potential lives, underneath the FOMO.
Yeah.
And so and here's one thing that I think is super important. The FOMO sometimes happens with the polished product and the shiny object, but not the process to attain it. In other words, let's say you did have FOMO. I'll just use myself for an example. Let's say I did have FOMO when I met Nate a little bit with his physique and his strength and his presence and the respect that comes from that. And by the way, his ability to teach. He was a personal trainer. His ability to teach others how to get in shape too. That's another part of it. So, but what if I wanted the result without the process? What if I didn't want the 5 a.m. workouts? What if I didn't want to learn? Right? So if you do have FOMO, do what Kevin said and figure out why, but then make sure. So here's an example. Let's say I picked someone on Instagram who is clearly on a lot of drugs, okay, steroids. What if I had FOMO to look like that, but yet didn't know they were on drugs? I'm going to try to look like that and play a losing game. This is why awareness, aka hyperconsciousness,
shameless plug,
is so critical, because I could spend the rest of my life trying to look like someone who I quite literally never could look like, based on a FOMO that was predicated on something I was unaware of, in other words, like steroids.
As always, we choose something and then we go deep. Like I'm sure when Sandra was like, I want to hear about FOMO. I don't know if I didn't expect it to get this deep. I don't know if Sandra did. Sandra, we hope that this is what you wanted. I think that as with most things, it's not cut and dry. Number one, it depends on you, and number two, it depends on your thought process surrounding it. Like it's just like fear. Like what are you afraid of? What am I afraid of about planes? Heights. Lack of control. I can't control it.
Yeah.
Well, you're 100,000 times more likely to get in a car accident. I'm driving the fucking car. I'm not worried about it. I'm in control. I'm not going to crash.
Oh, so your fear is actually control?
Maybe.
Interesting.
But that's what I mean. Like if you start questioning the things that you are afraid of, the things that you're having FOMO, the things that you feel confident about. Why am I so confident at the gym? I've done it thousands of times. Of course I am.
Yeah.
Why am I more confident now on the microphone than I was 70 reps ago?
Because you're more in control.
Because I'm more in control, you know? But I think that's how it is with a lot of people. But with anything, FOMO, love, hate, fear, all of that, you have to dig deeper and figure out why you're feeling the way you're feeling.
We talked recently about how you struggle a little bit with adaptability.
I can, yeah.
And when the logistics don't go well, you have a trouble adapting. And I think what Kevin just hit on, which this is fear of missing out, but it's also fear is the first word. Maybe you have a fear of lack of control. a little, which is maybe why planes bother you but cars don't, even though the statistics show that planes you're much less likely to
Yeah, I
get
don't
hurt.
care about statistics. God.
Yeah.
It's a piece of metal flying through the sky. Statistics don't matter to me. But yeah, that's probably that's a good point.
Interesting.
There's always something deeper.
And now that Kevin knows that, he can work on it.
Or do nothing.
Or do not. Yeah, depending.
No, and I think that's why if you're listening, you have to dig deep.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to you have to sign your name on the line that says, look, I want to become the most hyper-conscious version of myself, but that also means you're going to have to do some deeper digging than you've ever done before. I can't talk. You're signing up for this. This is part of it. This is part of it. So if you have FOMO of being hyper-conscious, you got to dig that hole.
Yeah. I have a client who wants to be a doctor one day. And I really do think that if you're having FOMO, there's a deep desire in you to be more. And so what a doctor gets is status, respect, financial security, knowledge, wisdom, experience, all of these things, competency. Yeah, there's a lot of really good things that come from being a doctor. And so that FOMO might very well be the spark that ignites her onto a journey that could change lives forever, quite literally save lives.
Yeah.
So there's something underneath your FOMO that you should dig for, because whatever that thing is probably that awareness of it is going to help you overcome it.
Hyperconscious. This is a very hyper-conscious episode. You have a dramatic reading.
I do.
Dramatic reading time.
So fair warning, folks. This is a longie but a goodie.
I don't think that's how you say it. But okay.
Right. All right, here
It's a
we go.
longie.
Longie but a goodie. Okay, ready? So this is an article that I wrote called The Most Valuable Asset on Earth, and I thought it was relevant to today's episode, and you'll understand why. It's also available on the website, so we have all of my articles on there.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Full free.
This is the story of a young man walking down the street in New York City. As usual, instead of enjoying the stroll, he's daydreaming again. He enjoys a well-paying job, makes good money, has 2 beautiful children, and he's married to a wonderful woman who loves him dearly. He's got what most people would give anything for. Hell, he lives in a free country, for goodness sake. He's got so much to be grateful for, and yet he's still so fixated on things of far less value. And worst of all, he doesn't even realize it. He works in the news and mass media industry. He's got a big heart and wants to do good things, but he's got some bad habits. Constantly seeking thrills and dissatisfied with his life, he drinks and gambles frequently. He's always surrounded by the nightlife and advertisements, and understandably so. Working in the industry, he keeps up with the news and pop culture regularly. Unfortunately, though, he isn't very proactive about controlling what enters his mind. What he focuses on, nor is even... He's not proactive about controlling what enters his mind or what he's focused on, nor is he even aware or conscious of just how much it affects his mental and emotional well-being. And because he works in the industry, he's even more drawn to mass media, fame, fortune, and worst of all, he rationalizes it as a necessary part of his job. And I mean, it's all around him too. It's everywhere. Billboards, posters, TV, news, radio, social media, movies, and countless others. And by the way, folks, this is the stuff that causes FOMO. Like many of us, he's constantly bombarded with the lives of celebrities, fancy cars, seemingly perfect women, and mansions by the sea. And because of this, his mind is constantly taken away from the moment, and he never feels good enough. And so, consumed again by every shiny object, he sees a woman across the street dressed to the nines. She seems in a hurry, and her appearance screams of wealth. She's got diamonds on diamonds, long blonde hair, an expensive tight black dress, big fake breasts, a huge rump, and a tiny waist.
Huge rump?
Yeah. She must be a celebrity, he says to himself as he quickly turns the corner. And in a last-ditch effort to catch just one more glimpse of her from behind, the young man steps off the curb too swiftly and gets hit by a cab driver moving way too fast. The young man's head smashes on the pavement. Wow, just like that, dead on impact. Okay. But the story doesn't end there, folks. The young man wakes up with a friendly guide in a white suit at his side. The guide, his angel, who looks more like a butler, really, takes him to a luxurious casino. He's ushered into an amazing suite, and he opens the closet to find it overflowing with incredible suits and fancy shoes. They all fit him perfectly. His guide opens a drawer, and it's stuffed with cash, more than he's ever seen before. So the young man gets dressed, goes downstairs, and the gambling in the gaming tables, and everybody knows his name. Everybody smiles at him. He's surrounded by gorgeous women. It's his ultimate fantasy. He plays blackjack, and he hits 21 the first time. He wins. This is great. He rakes in the chips. The next time, 21. Next time, 21. 10 times in a row. It's extraordinary. He turns around and plays craps, and he wins. Wins. He has huge piles of chips. All he has to do is ask for drinks, steaks, women, and they all appear. Everything he's ever wanted, he gets. This is heaven, he exclaimed excitedly. He goes to sleep that night, well, let's just say not alone, and very, very happy. This goes on day after day, month after month, and one day he's playing at the blackjack table, and the dealer says, blackjack. The young man suddenly and unexpectedly screams, of course it's blackjack. The dealer says, 21, you win. Of course, I always win. I'm sick of this. I win every time, no matter what happens. He looks at his guide in the white suit and asks to speak with the head angel. When the head angel appears, the young man unleashes a tirade. I'm so bored. I'm going out of my mind. Frustrated as hell and finally free from the constant and never-ending distraction of his countless material desires, the young man starts to think about his wife and kids. He wonders how they are and what they're doing. He misses them dearly, and in this very moment realizes the cold, hard truth that he is dead, and that this is the first time in years that he has truly thought of anyone other than himself. And so he knows in his bones, and for the very first time, just how incredible his life actually was. With eyes full of tears and dropping to his knees in a pool of self-pity, he finally sees the truth, the hardest truth, the truth that he took it all for granted. Amongst the unimaginable pain, anguish, and turmoil of this realization, the young man, fully immersed in the moment for the very first time, looks up and says, you know what, head angel? There must be some kind of mistake. I realize now that I wasn't a very good person in life. Without realizing it, I squandered the most valuable asset on earth, time. And I wasted it thinking only of myself. I was an ungrateful bastard who lost sight of what's really important, and because of that, I don't feel worthy of being here anymore. I think I'm in the wrong place. I honestly don't deserve to be in heaven. The head angel looks down at him, smiles a devilish smile, and says, whoever said you were in heaven?
Burned him.
That's a story from that I adapted from one of Tony Robbins' books, Money Master the Game. I want to give credit where it's due. When I first heard that story, folks, it really touched me because we can spend our whole life feeling like we're missing out when we're constantly bombarded by marketing, by shiny objects. And what really matters at the end of the day is who you are as a person, the people you love, and the effect you have on others.
I think this episode goes hand in hand with Wednesday's episode of Focus, because a lot of that was, what are you focusing on?
Exactly.
If we could very easily have FOMO when it comes to, people are buying houses and having kids and having families and starting families.
Right.
And you and I are trying to become the best versions of ourselves so we can serve as many people as possible. It'd be very easy for us to have FOMO. I'm proud of the person that I'm becoming, and I realize the most capable version of me can help the most people. So that's how I think that's how we get through it.
Yeah. This was a powerful episode.
Was powerful. It's always interesting, man. You never know how it's going to go.
I know.
I thoroughly enjoy this. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. Up next, we have an episode where we were lucky enough to interview somebody that we actually mastermind with. Her name is Kimberly Spencer. She has a podcast. She is a speaker, and she is next level.
We went unbelievably deep on Kim's episode. She actually divulged a story that she's never told publicly before about, and she didn't want to use the word rape, but it was definitely along those lines of sexual abuse. And for anyone out there who's gone through some form of sexual or emotional abuse, this episode really hit a heartstring that I think will help all of us heal.
Yeah, she was very transparent, very, very vulnerable, and before that, she added so much value in so many different ways. Alan and I were legitimately blown away, so we hope you will enjoy. That is up next, and we will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.